Peter Ellis, and I'm entrepreneur in residence for Ipswich Girls Grammar and Junior Grammar. And part of my role here within the school and the community is to record a series of interviews where we get to talk to either alumni, old girls, teachers, staff, parents, or people within our community that we see as role models for our students. I had the pleasure of having a discussion with Tahina Booth, who is the founder of the Grass Skirt Project. She's one of our First Nations and Islander peoples, and a founder and an entrepreneur from a really different background. Sharing her story enables us to showcase that entrepreneurs are born and raised and created from really different backgrounds. Showcase her story, her mission, and her purpose, and hopefully inspire not only our students, but maybe even perhaps some of our teachers and parents, that the journey of entrepreneurship and having an impact and persisting with a cause that's very personal to you can actually start at any age or at any place within your journey. I really hope you enjoy the discussion on this episode of IGGS Connect. All right, so I have a very special guest with me today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and her business and the project that she's working on. And then we're going to have a bit of a discussion around the cause and the mission that she's working on, how she's actually gone about that, and obviously some hopes and desires for the future and where she'd actually like to take the project. So would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Peter, for having me. My name is Tahina Booth. I'm the CEO of the Grass Skirt Project, which essentially, in a nutshell, uses sport to end gender-based violence in communities. We have started in Papua New Guinea, but we have very big global aspirations to take our programs and roll them out in other places.
And so can you just unpack, obviously, ending gender violence and utilising sport? So there's two really big things there. First of all, ending gender violence, but then also utilising sport. How do you do that? Or how does the company do that?
So I started with for me, it's very personal. I experienced sexual violence when I was quite young, and I had no ways of talking about it. I didn't know how to call out for help. I didn't know what was available to me. And because I was so young, I grew up with a lot of shame and stigma, around what I experienced. And it wasn't until I was a lot older that I realized that what happened to me was wrong. That there are services out there to help people who have survived, these horrific, incidents. And 3, not enough is being done. And I was just like, that's crap. This is actually, in my friend circle, we've all experienced something, whether it's from inappropriate touching to catcalling or to actual sexual violence. And I just thought, my God, I have to do something. I just can't sit here and just want to see other huge organizations do stuff. I thought, I can do something on a community level, and I can use sport to address some of these issues. And so I sort of was on this exploration of trying to find different international organizations that were doing what I wanted to do. So use sport to have these conversations and filter resources and agencies directly to people, and I couldn't really find any. And so that's when I thought, I've got something here. I have no idea how to start. I play sport, semi-professionally. So I've got access to lots of sports equipment, and why don't I just take sports equipment back home? It was a little bit crazy because, I've got no background in development and aid or anything like that. I just had this crazy, intense fire to do something. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I just did it. So,
this is where the best ideas come from. Firstly, you had a really big problem that you wanted to solve for or work towards or come up with alternative solutions. Can you unpack, because you mentioned there that you had an involvement with sport. So what's your personal relationship with sport?
Yeah, so I got into I've always been a really sporty person, and through my traumas growing up, I never really um, thought that I could participate in an Olympic level or Commonwealth level, but I've always been really gifted in
Mm.
sport. And I think if I had stronger supporters, around myself, I probably would have gone to the Olympics at, 17, 18, 19, and because I didn't have that support structure, I was just like off, doing all the wrong things that, you shouldn't be doing and just not focused. But it wasn't until I got myself into therapy and, started having counseling, they taught me how to deal with my traumas, what I can do when something awful comes up. And I realized, oh my God, I'm actually so resilient.
Yeah. Yes.
I've actually got the strength, within myself to fix a lot of my issues and not to be blaming other people because they did this to me or whatever. I've got that power to make that change.
Yep.
And I didn't get that realization till I was like 28.
Mm.
And that's when I started my,
Yeah.
and that's when I started my journey. And since then, I've represented Australia in a few different sports in Olympic weightlifting and also in powerlifting. And I've also represented my other country, Papua New Guinea, in rugby league, which I'm still playing today, and I'm 37 now. So bit of a late bloomer. And I wish I had, played sport a little bit earlier, to that degree. But I think, my ethos is like, you're never too late to start. You just need to start.
Yes.
And
Look, that's my ethos. This is exactly why I do this, is to remind people that it's never too late to start anything. So rugby league, weightlifting, you're from PNG, you utilized sport as a way to process trauma, and obviously lots of other multiple different areas of therapy helped you sort of unpack those things. But the biggest gap for you was there was a lack of support and probably information. Am I correct in summarizing?
yeah. So what I found from sport was it was a really safe space for me to be a leader, to try new things, to fail. And I noticed that that's actually transferred into my business life. So what I've learned through playing sport, having open communication with my teammates, making sure a message is understood, the same thing I applied to business as well. It's actually there's no real difference, except I'm not smashing people on a rugby
As
field
in
or something like that.
rugby smashing. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many crossovers from sport that's taught me how to be a better person, and it's allowed me to fail forward. It's allowed me to try different things and not be afraid of my power. That's another thing too. Like, what do you
Being
do when you
afraid of your
win?
power. Absolutely. Is this because you had
Yeah.
you had somewhere to channel the energy, because you had both power and probably a lot of built up frustration and anger, which is going to be important when we move into what you
Absolutely.
wanted to remove, violence, obviously, and anger. And you've experienced firsthand that you utilize sport as a channel to move through and push that energy through somewhere, something, as a mechanism.
In a really positive way,
Yes.
absolutely. And going to sexual violence, back home in PNG, it's so bad. What is reported is just the tip of the iceberg. So we don't actually know how huge the problem is. What we do know is that not enough is being done, and we need
Yes.
really bold ideas out there. And I've got that. So
And
but
you've
that's
got that. Yes.
yeah.
So talk to me. First of all, thank you for sharing this story. I know firsthand exactly how difficult it is to go back and share stories of personal experience, but I'm loving how you have learned and unpacked and experienced and explored, and now you are willing to share what you've learned with others to help provide that support network that you didn't have, plus the information that you didn't have, with a nice framework that you can step people through. So let's link up to, first of all, the or the violence, I suppose, and you're utilizing sport within schools to do that.
Yeah, so what I've come up with, it's called Gymbox. And essentially what it is, it's a 20-foot shipping container repurposed where we have a functional gym within it, and we also have a community center. It's like a community hub. Now, the great thing about this is that when you talk about rape, or you talk about consent, or you talk about anything that's really like scary, the people that we want to target are young people, you know,
Yes.
and young men especially. And so having this gym box in a community where young people like to come out and work out, especially young men, you know, lift weights, look good, like, you know, have all that sort of camaraderie with their mates. We also have anti-violence education, sexual and reproductive health courses and workshops and partnerships. So this gym is more than just a gym, you know, it's ending gender-based violence. And that's what we want to, you know, essentially get out, not just in Papua New Guinea, but into the Pacific Islands, into Australian communities.
Everywhere.
You know, so
Everywhere.
It's
yeah. As soon as I heard the gym box concept and I saw an image of it when I first watched you giving that pitch, I was like, every single school needs to have one of these gym boxes. Can you explain to me? So visually, I'll explain to our viewers and listeners that it is a shipping container pretty much with a gym in it, and they can be deployed quite easily into most locations with everything in it. So it's super easy for a school to sign up. It is super easy to put one in as long as you've got how much space within a school sports ground. How much space do they take up?
Well, so the actual gym is 20 foot. And then we request that you have about 15 meters in front to have like, you know, where you can pull sleds, because it is functional equipment that's in there. Yeah. So if you know a CrossFit, you know, style gym, it's very similar to that. There's actually not much differences. The only difference is that we have that anti-violence education. And
can you explain that a little bit, Tina, on how does that work? So let's just say you have a school, they have a gym box, it comes with all the equipment, you have the space. How does the education part work?
Yeah, so right now we're in the process of, you know, we want to be more sustainable. So what we're looking at is rolling out our very own anti-violence education and then selling that onto, you know, schools or whoever. But currently at the moment, what we're doing is we're partnering with anti-violence providers, and we invite them in to host, and then they disseminate their information that way. You know, so I'm always thinking about ways on how we can, like, you know, increase revenue, or what we can do to be more sustainable, especially if you go into a new community where you don't understand how it works. It's really important that this gym box has its own bystander program, and local community, you know, they do the training and then they relay that information in their native tongue, like, you know, in language or however, whatever suits that community. So there's leadership, you know, in this program as well. There's employment. There's so many different layers. And I've just found it over the last couple of years, like my sort of vocabulary, it's just gone crazy.
Because we also learn as we're doing these things for everybody else. You are continually needing to upskill yourself in terms of education that's accessible to you, the language that's used, the appropriate language, which changes all the time.
Like, I didn't know entrepreneurship was actually a thing until a couple of years ago.
Which I think,
oh my God.
Exactly. And would you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. Like, because it has not been easy. Let's be real. You know, this is not, you have to be courageous for one.
Yes.
Because, you know, it's a very lonely journey. You know, but it doesn't have to be. Like, you know, there are others, you know, that are out there, but I didn't know where to look.
Yes.
You know, so it wasn't until I, you know, did a course last year with SBE, which was absolutely amazing, that I was like, oh, wow. Oh, there's
other people.
This whole industry. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, so you have to be brave. But
so brave. So you're suggesting if you have a concept or an idea, or you're looking to solve a problem, you need to be brave. You need to say, I want to solve this. I have no idea what I need. I don't know what I don't know yet, but I'm going to start. And what would be the first steps would you suggest that somebody takes? I mean, obviously you took some steps to start something. What were those?
Yeah, so I was fueled by just, I mean, well, to be brutally honest, it was my traumas. I knew that if I didn't do something about this, what does my life look like in the next couple of years? Am I in the ground? Is that going to be my legacy? And I just refuse to die. I don't want to die. I don't need to die. Like, I've got too much to give,
Yeah.
And if I did choose that, then those people that did those horrific things to me, they win. And then I don't have a voice, and also all the other little girls and little boys that are experiencing this, they don't have a voice,
Mhm.
And I was like, no, it stops with me. And so this is what I can do. Well, and how I started was I put a call out on my social media to anybody and said, hey, look, I'm going back home to PNG, in the next couple of weeks. If you've got any sports equipment that you want to give to me, I'll make sure that I give it to a woman, a deserving, because back home, I had a bit of a situation a couple of months before that. I was competing in national championships for powerlifting, and I was the only athlete that had all the gear. And I'd noticed that there were some incredible athletes that were lifting amazing weights, but then they were getting disqualified because they didn't swap their shoes fast enough. So they were sharing socks and shoes. And some of these athletes never got to represent the country because
Mm.
they couldn't tie their shoes fast enough. And I just thought, oh my God, that's absolutely ridiculous. And that's where I got that idea. Okay, I'll just collect sports equipment. That social media call out turned out to be 4.5 ton worth of sports equipment, and we raised $4,000, and I realized, I was like, wow, there's something here. I don't know what it is. I'm just going to follow my gut
Mhm.
and just move forward with it, And then, my best mate, Dr. Sophia Bartlett, she joined Grass Skirt too, and she was like, well, how do we make this more of a public health event? Because her background, she's a research scientist, epidemiologist. And so, she's the brains behind the public health aspect. And I was like, so I want, more gender-based violence. Like, how do we do this? And it's just grown from there, So a lot of collaboration, a lot of support from great people.
Mm.
And for me, it's actually been not about judging myself, because I don't know this. I don't know a lot of things. But I'll partner with somebody that is professional and they understand, So
Mm.
it's being okay with things that you don't know about, because that's all right.
Yeah,
You're not an expert in
absolutely.
everything.
And look, the majority of the reason why people don't start anything is because they think they don't know enough, or they're not ready, or they haven't learned the right things, or they're not in the right industry, or they don't know enough people. Like you said, you wanted to make a change. You did something very small, or you were aware of something and you just thought, I'm going to do this thing. Then asked people along the way, which I think is the most important thing, is surrounding yourself or plugging into networks. And often you don't know what those networks are until you maybe ask one
Mm.
person, and then there's the follow-on effect from those introductions. So in terms of where you started and then what you would love to have an impact on and what drove you, which introduces us to the concept of the Grass Skirt Project. Do you want to explain to us what the Grass Skirt Project is, which is separate but then tied into the gym boxes?
Yeah, so Grassroots Project is the not-for-profit, the charity arm, and Gym Boxes is our commercial entity, which is, for business. So that's where we're wanting to raise, our revenue, and all those profits get reinvested back into the charity. And the reason why we're doing that is because we are a social enterprise,
Yes.
and currently with our model is that so before COVID happened, we would run really large public health sporting events, and actually one of the largest in the Pacific. So when COVID happened, we were like, "Ooh, okay, holy moly, that's actually it. That was dead. It was dead. That was it." And
Because
the
you couldn't
great thing
hold the
about it,
public events anymore, you thought it was over?
that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, essentially, because Havea Cup and Wellness Expo is a rugby league nines tournament, men and women, not playing against each other, but equity. Like it's all about people playing sport and getting access to health, because we'd have different health providers come in and have an exhibition stall. Um, that would generate a lot of money from sponsorship, because lots of
Mm.
corporates would get behind it. But when COVID hit, we had no money coming in. That was it.
Yeah.
It was just shut shop. But like I was saying before, the best thing about it was that it made me stop, focus, and get back to gym box. And so I'm so glad that I've been able to do this, because this particular program is seriously, it's a game changer.
Can you explain to me a little bit about the gym box? So maybe a location where you have one of them and the impact that it's had. Have you got any stories to share?
Yeah, so the one that we've currently got is based in Port Moresby.
Yes.
And
is that
we
in a
currently
school
have
or a community?
Well, it's in a community that backs up on the back of a school.
Okay.
So we've got, school students that come and use the facility. The thing is that we have 150 members, coming to the facility per week using it. But there's no more. It's like we can't take any more people in.
So 150 young people are using this gym box?
From ages 12 to 60.
Okay, so
it's for everybody.
Okay, yeah. And 150 a week are using it?
Yeah, and we have different partnerships with, sexual reproductive health, family sexual violence, the Royal PNG Constabulary. They come in and they disseminate their health information.
And are they doing that in sessions where people are sitting down listening? Is it in person?
Yeah. So so last year, for example, we'd run them once a month with a different themes, and just open it up to anybody. They can come. And what we're finding is that it's actually a really it's evenly attended by both genders.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, that tells us that this is needed. People just want access to information.
Yes.
So they know that there are problems within their communities. They want action. How do they solve these things? And the great thing about the gym box is that it acts as a neutral space, especially in areas where, for example, if there's police brutality, or if there's distrust or something like that, the gym box provides a neutral space where both the community and, the police can come together and have a talk, have a chat. And so that's what we're really proud of, is the fact that, we have these really great results that are coming through. And, we've got stories of, some young women, for example, who had no idea, before seeing Marie Stopes, they had no idea they could control how many children they have. So they didn't know that. Others as well, not realizing that it's a crime to hit their wife or their partner. Like not knowing, and then, some of these young people asking the, police people, is rape a crime? Like, these are conversations where it makes me I'm just like, holy moly, we need to get this everywhere.
Absolutely. And I think it's probably highlighting how far back in the conversation we actually are, and education. And it's, you can condemn lots of things and assume people are going and seeking their own knowledge. But I think what you've identified is you really need to package it in a way that's not confronting. It's a safe place, like you said, a neutral space. It's disarming, and it's coming at them as a point of contact that is there to be helpful and not condemning behavior, but more education, which I think is probably quite unique.
Yeah, and not judgmental either. That's the real power in this. And having it, the facilitators are local people that deliver it. So they have that local cultural connection. Nuances. Yeah, exactly. They know how to deliver that content. So it's one of these. I thought there would have been more, programs like this around the world, but I'm yet to find any. And who knows, somebody might hear this in
well, look, let's unpack that a little bit. So obviously do you have a big, hairy, audacious goal, or a big goal to get, we have spoken, and my dream is to see your gym boxes in every single school, all around, well, first of all, Australia, and obviously PNG and the Pacific, or community centres. Because it should be as important as other parts of the schools, and schools have a lot of different programs that they embed. but introduced at an education department level. Is this something that you are also hoping for? What is your vision?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see this all in schools. I think it should be a staple. It doesn't matter where the school is. There should be a gym box in there because, you know, everyone should have access to this type of information, and also health and wellness, you know, and mental health. They all are interconnected. I
How is
also
that
would love,
interconnected for you? Can you just talk a little bit about that, the mental health piece?
yeah, absolutely. So
Because that obviously is a big piece why you've created a gym in a box.
yeah. So, I mean, quite simply, when you are doing exercise, when you are out moving, when you are out in nature, we all feel good, you know, and it doesn't cost you anything, you know. It's when you exercise with people that forms a community, that forms stronger friendships. You actually build trust. Um, and on top of that, like when they all roll in, not only are you like, you know, feeling stronger, but you become mentally stronger.
Yes.
You start to realize when, you know, you pick up something that's really heavy, oh, hey, if I actually try,
Yeah.
I might do this. And
Yes.
it's every single week, you just, you know, chip at it, chip at it, chip at it. And the next thing you know, you're actually lifting twice as heavy as you were when you first started, because you gave yourself that opportunity to shine. You gave yourself
Mm.
that opportunity to push through the hurt. And life hurts. Let's be
Yes.
real. Like
Yes.
training hurts. And there's a good reason why not everybody does it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so that's what gym boxes are, is that, you know, provides that space where you can come in, you know, a shell of yourself and leave bigger and better, you know. So that's it. There's another sort of side to it with the physical training, but
Mm.
at the end of the day, it is about access to anti-violence education. The physical side is what draws people in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're using at the moment, and that's how we engage with young men and young women.
And would you
So
say that if any school has mental health on their agenda, that this would be a beneficial addition to their overall program and offering?
absolutely, it complements it. You
Yes.
know, it gets, you know, kids out and about. It gets them, you know, exploring
And
new
forming
ways.
unique connections and community around a common interest.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. I if kids, you know, because they're all always on. I mean, our kids are. They're always on, like, you know, their computer games and
Yeah.
you know, all that sort of thing. I'm just like, we've got so many issues with young kids today, where some of them are experiencing, you know, diabetes at a
Mm-hmm.
really young age. You know, where um, they're not having the social engagement they should be, like, you know, with another person. A lot of them have social anxiety.
Mm.
Like, you know, we can change that, and it's getting them outside. It's getting them, you know, into sport, you know, into an environment where they can, like, you know, connect and play and try something new, you
Yes.
know. So yes, I'm 100% for
Yeah,
sport for
so I think
everybody.
you've touched on, I mean, you've got a solution that if schools have mental health on their agenda, but also health and well-being, physical health and well-being of their young people, the members of their community, but also the social resilience, the social connection, and the connection to community. I think you're touching on three really vital parts of the growth of not only micro communities within a school, but broader than that in their own local community. But then I also believe what you're touching on there is you're pretty much empowering regional areas to have a central space for
Mm,
education, but then also to tackle those community issues of mental and physical well-being all at the same time, which is fascinating to me because you are a very inspirational entrepreneurial person who never anticipated being an entrepreneur, who is actually an athlete and a trauma survivor. What would you say to young people who perhaps think, you know what, I don't really know what I'm going to do with my future, or I absolutely have no interest in business and I don't even know what businesses do or what people who are in business do? How would you explain maybe to fuel or drive a passion or an impact project with something that you know? Do you have any sort of advice maybe to a younger version of yourself?
well, if I was speaking to myself, it'd be like, don't be so angry, do something about it.
So anger was
uh,
definitely present for you.
yeah, it really was. But I always, at the same time, you know, I just knew that I was destined to do something great. And um, I just never settled, you
Yes.
know. Yeah, so I think for me, it was telling myself that, you can do this. But it wasn't until I got into therapy
Yes.
and, had different mentors. And over the years now, like I've probably got about seven mentors right now. And they're
Yes.
all for different things,
Yes.
So it's not being afraid of your power, like not being afraid to reach out to somebody and tell them your story, there's a mentor that I'm trying to track down now, but he's just a little bit distant. But I'm like, I know I'll work with you one day. And that's actually that's Dr. Glenn Richards, by the way. So if he's listening to this,
I know him, so I can easily there you go. I will send this video to him.
Yeah, so thank you. It's having a go, believing in yourself, and knowing that, yes, you are going to fail, but the best thing about that is that failure tells you what you need to work on.
Yeah.
So put your ego aside, because that's going to be bruised and all that sort of, mumbo jumbo, whatever. But the best thing about that is it gives you steps, and, you call on your mentors and say, hey, this is my situation.
Yes, you do.
How do I get
and that's
here?
that support network that you mentioned very early on the piece. You didn't have the support, you didn't have the connections. Another piece I want to ask you about is, because I work with a lot of athletes, professional athletes who are looking at opportunities beyond their athletic career. You are also a living evidence proof that you can take a very different path beyond a professional athletic career. Do you have any sort of suggestions, tips, guidance on anybody who's looking to work out what do they possibly do with their skills beyond professional sport?
Great question. So, as a professional athlete, you've got so many skills. Like, employers love to hire people like yourself because you understand discipline. You are dedicated to the craft. If you have to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning finishing something done, you just get it done, because you know that if you don't, you're going to get fired. Or if you don't, you're not going to win.
Yes.
It's a very black and white, so it's essentially do something that you're passionate about, or something that, has a, because whatever you do, you will be successful. Everything that you've learned in your athletic, life will transfer automatically, and when shit gets hard, you just put your butt down and you just work,
I agree. And look, evidence has shown so many times over that athletes or anybody with that competitive mindset make fantastic business owners, founders, entrepreneurs, simply because they have that ability to be, first of all, be coached, know that there's somebody else out there who might know more than them and is actually got their best interest at heart to guide them. Plus also the ability, like you said, just to get it done. It hurts, it's hard, no one loves the training. And a lot of being in business is just like going to training every day, showing up, doing the thing when you don't love it. And it's just feel like you're not getting anywhere. But if you have a very clear goal, end goal, mission, impact, they're the things that will keep you driving towards the end.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is your chance to, ask, like, what do you want? What do you need? Who do you want to be introduced to? What would you like to see that who might be in the community, that might be listening, that might be able to help you out?
So what we're wanting to do is expand our gym boxes in Papua New Guinea, and we have an approach where we want to have 10 deployed by 2024, but we've staged it, 4 this year, 2 next year, and then 3 4 thereafter. It essentially, I've actually just reached out to DFAT asking, for a sum of money to put this through. I don't know, do I air that, how much money we're looking for? I don't know.
I think even if you air that, you are looking to, so first of all, are you looking to take on external capital, or are you looking in the form of grants? Are you looking for key partnerships? You've identified Dr. Glenn Richards, but is there anybody else that you're chasing, or things? Because if somebody always knows someone, and what you've probably learned already is the community, once you're in here, is quite small and very powerful and connected. So ask away.
Yeah. So, okay. Big thing out there. Yeah. Is that what I'm looking for is a partner to essentially grow Gymbox as a commercially viable, product. But with not just, a commercial return, but very, very large social returns.
Yes.
And I have no idea if there's like people out there that are in that headspace,
There is. Yes, there is.
Yeah,
and look,
okay.
because there's a difference between obviously social enterprise and then for-profit, profit for purpose enterprises. So you can absolutely be a commercial enterprise, but be for purpose, and utilize your profits for purpose and a mission and a goal. And it's very important to make sure that you are always aligned with the partners you take on, and your alignment together is something that you would like to achieve, because there's always going to be challenges where people aren't in alignment, and that's up to you as the founder to remain true to that.
Yeah. So yes, I would love introductions, to partners like that, and essentially to get me investment ready, because I'm about 92% there.
Yeah.
But if I have someone that can look over everything and just say, "Yeah, you're almost there. We just need to fix this," or whatever, because I know that we're sitting on is something that will absolutely take off, and I just need a really good partner to deliver that with me.
And look, everyone's always sitting on something that's just about to take off. But I will remind you that it's not actually what you're sitting on, it's you. So you are about to take off, and it is actually you who's the secret sauce. And this is really important. It's so important to make sure this message is solid, because this is where people don't share their ideas and talk about them, is because they're fearful. Like you said, absolutely anybody can go and launch Gymbox, but do they have your story? Do they have your intent? Do they have your integrity, background, history, passion to drive this forward? No, they do not. So Gymbox isn't about to take off, you are. And keep that really at the front of your mind, because that is the thing that will bring you the correct aligned partner.
Thank you.
That's my little spiel. But it's look, I have thoroughly enjoyed our chat. I really enjoyed when I first heard you pitch at the SPE pitch last year. You were authentic, you were raw. I don't think you had pitched before. And the fact that you got up there and did it anyway, how did that feel for you to get up and pitch when you haven't pitched before?
I was ready to do it, and it was really daunting, but it's one of those things where I know I have to get really good at public speaking, because I know I'll be doing more of it in the future.
Yes.
And especially in, international markets. So it's just a step, it's just a new thing to learn, and to get comfortable with, and, to harness my power within, like, not be afraid of it. So, it was great, really great experience. And I recommend it for anybody.
Awesome.
To do the same thing.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, time, giving us a little bit of an insight into what's coming next for both Gymbox and Grass Skirt Project. How can people find you? Where is the best place to connect with you? If it's LinkedIn, email, websites, what's the best way to plug in and connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is my preferred connection.
And that's Tahina Booth?
Yeah. And I'm also on Twitter. So Grass Skirt Project's on Twitter as well. So it's at Grass Skirt Proj.
Yes.
We're also on Instagram, which is under Grass Skirt Project, and Facebook under Grass Skirt Project as well.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. We have gone over our half an hour, but it was an awesome discussion, and I always learn so much when I get to chat to special people like you, and I'm always feel a little bit better off. So thank you so much for sharing the time with me today.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me.